Welcome to another episode of the Tour Operator Growth Podcast. Today's episode is a fun one because we are talking with somebody who's truly grown up in this industry. We've got Stephanie here from Sunny Cove Kayaking in Alaska and also a Resmar client. She's been guiding since the late 90s, joined Sunny Cove in 2006, and worked her way up to operations manager before purchasing the business in 2019. Did I get that right, Stephanie?
You did. You did. I have seen every side of this business.
Perfect, perfect. So, as Stephanie just said, she has seen every angle from guide to operator and now owner, which gives her really, really unique perspective for you guys to listen to. So, Sunny Cove specializes in small group immersive kayaking experiences, but I'm going to let Stephanie explain and tell us more about that. So, Stephanie, let's start here. What inspired you to get into this awesome industry and eventually take the leap into owning Sunny Cove?
I have to be honest. I grew up in small town Wisconsin, and I had no idea that the outdoor adventure guiding world was available to me at all. I grew up in the ski industry and kind of fell into guiding in the late 90s. Literally applied for several jobs, ended up in a job in Alaska doing bike tours. And I have a very core memory of my first paid tour thinking, I get paid to do this. And just being blown away that this was something that I could do for a living. And so, over time, I kept developing my guiding skills and moving through the industry, and accidentally also ended up in Seward, Alaska, in one of those random job searches as a seasonal person, and fell in love with Seward almost immediately. Knew within the first few weeks that this was going to be my home base eventually, and just started growing my career from there.
I have a question. What do you love
Mhm.
most about what you do?
I have a love-hate relationship with this question. I get asked it a lot because it's not just one thing. It's everything. Seward's magical. Ocean, mountains, wildlife, like if you think of Alaska, it's all the things that you think about in Alaska in one place, basically. And then the outdoor industry, I get to have amazing experiences. I get to meet new people. I really enjoy the experience of building a team every new season. A lot of jobs you cycle through people, but not necessarily through the entire development process. We have to start over every spring and redevelop our team and our processes to have a successful season. And just introducing people to Alaska. It's a beautiful place. It's outstanding. Everybody should come here. Everybody come here. If you haven't come here, you should plan to come here.
It's on one of my dream list of places to go. I made it to Banff, so I made it partway
Yeah,
towards
yeah.
Alaska, but I gotta go further. I wanna go there so bad.
Yeah, you
Um,
should.
so when people are like me that wanna go up there, and when I go, I'll probably do tours and stuff like that.
Mhm.
When they're considering tours like yours, what questions, concerns do you typically see that people are having in during the planning stage where they're really trying to figure out, what their trip is gonna look like?
Yeah, Alaska's massive. That's the hard part. People don't have context on distances in Alaska, especially in the lower 48. When you think of doing a road trip or experiencing an area somewhere in the lower 48, you think of driving within an hour or two of your base. And not much is within an hour or two of driving in Alaska. You have to plan for that travel time, and that's probably the biggest thing is just the context of traveling here, how much time it takes to get around, and how far apart things are. And that can be super confusing even for people who live here. For me to run to Costco, let's say it's a 2.5 hour drive one way. And that to help people get clarity and understanding on that can be challenging. And it's super common for people to have this wish list of things they want to do, but not the time frame they need to actually do all of it. And that can be tough to whittle it down. So it's a Yeah, it's an interesting place to plan for. It's big. It's a big, big state.
Yeah, so when people are coming up to visit and do tours and different things, what do you think matters most to them when comparing all the various options? Like, maybe outside of the travel or the distance,
Mhm.
like, there's a lot of different things you can do in Alaska. Um, how what do you think matters most to them when they're comparing, "Do I go kayaking? Do I do a bear tour? Do I do this or that? Or which companies do I go with?" Etcetera.
Yeah, it's, figuring out what they want most out of their vacation, is the big thing. It's most people wanna see wildlife, and, that's kind of one of the big things you think about when you're traveling up here is what kind of wildlife, and so narrowing down, is it important to you to see bears and wolves and caribou? Then maybe you're heading to the interior to Denali, Talkeetna, some of those areas. Or are you hoping to see whales, humpback whales, orcas, sea lion, seals, mountain goats, those kinds of things? Maybe coastal Alaska is a little bit better for you. Um, and just trying to narrow down like what's most important to you is probably going to put you in a geographical area of Alaska. And then from there, you can kind of narrow down the area you're going to that'll be most beneficial for you to visit. But I constantly tell people the hardest part about planning a trip to Alaska is realizing you'll have to plan a second trip to Alaska and maybe a third.
It becomes everybody's favorite place.
It does.
Um,
The amount of people who come back is kind of crazy.
Love with it. I have a friend that ended up being a tour guide. She went out to visit just on a vacation and then ended up falling in love. And it's like, how can I move here? Became a tour guide. She's only 1 year into it, but
Yeah.
that's the story. When somebody finds out what area they wanna be in Alaska and kind of the things that they wanna do, I'm assuming that it's in a lot of different, areas, there's gonna be a lot of competition. What do you believe makes somebody
Mhm.
choose, your company, so Sunny Cove versus competition?
Sure. So, there's a lot of similarities between the products the different kayaking companies offer, and to be honest and fair, all the guiding companies here, they're great. They all have really high standards. They all are professional, and so from there, I think a lot of it just comes down to how you present your company and your personality. Because you're picking from grade A across the board, and so I hope that we're presenting that we're actually really fun to hang out with and that you're going to get something more out of the tour than just a guide who's just, speaking from a script or just spitting facts at you and not really paying attention to you as a person. And that's what we're trying to get across to people is that we want to hang out with you like you're our friend, like you're a family that's coming to visit for the day. You're our buddy for the day. And we're gonna try and treat you like that and make it a really personalized and fun experience for you rather than just leaving you to feel like you're part of a group of people that never gets any personalized attention.
Sometimes that starts, before they're on their trip, so they're
Mhm.
deciding who to go with, they book that trip. What are some of the things that you think allows you to allows the guest or the person booking to feel those sort of things? I know because I've looked at your website, you guys do some incredible things, but is there anything that you think, "Oh, we need this, this definitely helps with that," when the person is booking?
Yeah, I mean, good digital content, good videos, good photos. We're lucky enough to live in a place where it's really difficult to take bad photos or, it's the quality that's the difference, rather than the imagery. Um, and just, trying to give people a first person perspective in some of that content rather than an overview of the tours. Um, my train of thought just spun out, I'm sorry. But trying to just really help them understand what the experience will be like without giving away all the surprises, so to speak.
When you said
Exa
that about the photos, it made me think of something I saw on social media literally 2 days ago. Iceland is I don't know if it's a company or whatever, has put a job description out. It might even be an airline that says we want the worst photographers possible to come to Iceland to take photos because we want to prove that you could have the worst camera, the worst
Yeah.
photography, and still get the beautiful photos. Which reminds me, that's the exact kind of idea with Alaska. You're going to have
Mhm.
beautiful photos. And I think most tour operators, I would hope, have that kind of imagery on their photos. But we're speaking to a lot of tour operators who aren't that lucky. They're not in a position where they're in
Yeah.
literally dropping beautiful landscapes. Even if they're beautiful, they're not Alaska beautiful all the time, but it's still important to capture those photos no matter what, you know. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's crazy how, like, I am not a museum person, I don't really care to go look at pictures that people drew and stuff like that, but on websites I went on a whale watching tour this last week, and, like, I've seen a ton of pictures of whales coming out of the water, but when
Mhm.
you're actually on the boat, see it in person, it's just different, even though, like, we barely saw the whale. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool to see, like, this huge creature in the water that could totally tip our boat and just, like,
Yeah.
swim right past us and then dive down. So it's good to get that feeling across on the website, right? So as you're
Yeah.
building out your website and you're, sending the different emails and staying in touch with your potential customers, what do you see the role of your site playing in helping guests feel confident that in the booking that they're gonna do with you specifically?
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, being in Alaska is, what I imagine is it's just like trying to book a trip from a foreign country. We are not close to any city center. We're not close to any population areas, and so we have to reach really far to get our clientele. And so our website is really key to making that reach to those people. Um, and, the site is pretty detailed. It has a lot of information on it, but I think the tone of the website's also really friendly, and that helps a lot. I like to write everything from the content from the site. I do everything myself, basically, by the way. I'm a small company. But the everything from the site to my email blasts, I write them like I'm writing my cousin, in Wisconsin. And so they're all in my personal tone. And I hope that that connects with people so that they feel like they're having a one-on-one conversation with me, or with Lori, who's in the office. We're the only two who are going to answer the phone, and Lori's my mom. So you're you're going to get a really personalized experience from my family.
As you've worked through your website and marketing material over the years, is there have you seen any changes that you've made specifically to your website that have positively improved the booking experience, ultimately leading to increasing your, like, bookings, the number of bookings you've had?
Yeah, and so this is relatively new, and I kind of don't want to say it out loud because my competitors are going to start doing it, but we're all small town people here, and so it's some of the marketing things don't always make it to us as quickly as they might to some other organizations. But I just recently ran my entire website and marketing strategy through AI, whether you like it or not. It's happening, right? And literally asked AI what AI needs from me to make my site more attractive to AI searches, and got a bunch of content updates and personalized them. And since I've implemented those, my website traffic went up like quite a bit. And so that's the most recent thing I did. And it, I don't know a lot about AI marketing. I'm literally talking to the AI, asking it how to help me. But the implementation worked. And so now the traffic bumped up quite a bit in the last 3 months since I've started adding that into my content.
That's
I
great to
think a
hear.
lot I think a lot of people listening will do that. So let's maybe say, how did you start? Did you use ChatGPT? Did you use Claude? What do you use? And then what was like the first thing you told it to do? Did you just give it your URL? Did you copy it, push the text?
Typically use ChatGPT, and I'm not sure I remember exactly how I started it, but I'm sure it was not the smartest way to start the conversation. However, I did it because it's relatively new to me. But I do have to say, if there's a lot of digital content out there to talk to teach you how to use AI, and so TikTok and YouTube, like you can find a lot on there to help you understand how to prompt. Um, but I have a tendency to use to speak rather than type, and then just let my brain kind of dump out into the AI, and it usually figures out what I want from that a lot better than typing prompts does. So, I'll just see what it spits out, and then I'll continue to ask it questions to kind of dive down into what it's telling me. It's a little creepy, but it has been very helpful.
My wife thinks it's extremely creepy. I'll talk to it sometimes, and she's like, "What are you
Uh-huh.
doing?" I was like, "I'm talking to my friend, Mr. Chat."
Yep.
I'll, like, go on a
Yeah.
car ride and talk to it for 45 minutes, just, like, filling my thoughts out so that I don't have to type it later.
Yeah, it's a great way to document what's falling out of your brain. Well, because the same thing happens to me. I'll be driving or, somewhere where it's not easy for me to record what I'm thinking, but what feels like a great idea or something I want to remember later will come out and I can just spit it out. I call it Mr. GPT. Um,
Mine's Pete. So we all have nicknames for it. That's awesome. I think that that's such an easy place to start, whether you have the free ChatGPT or the paid version or you're using Claude. It's an easy place that
Mhm.
everybody can start. So that's awesome. And you obviously saw success from it. You saw you said it was the traffic that increased, right? So
Yes. Yeah.
that's incredible. So, Stephanie, do you have ways to stay connected with people who aren't ready to book yet? So, those people who went to your website, but maybe they didn't book, or you've captured their information somehow, they didn't book, or maybe they sent you an inquiry but didn't book. Is there anything you're doing to stay in front of those people so that they can book later?
Mhm. Yeah, so I send out email blasts pretty regularly. I have a subscriber list of nearly 30,000 people at this point. And that's super helpful. And I don't write marketing. Marketing people would probably hate my emails, or maybe love them. I'm not sure, but they're, I'm not pitching what's on sale this week. I'm just talking about how I'm hiring and how many people I have on my staff or what we're doing this week or what the weather's been like. It's literally just me, like I'm writing to my mom, like a little catch up. And then, at the bottom it'll say somewhere like, do you want to learn more? Click here. There's some areas where you can kind of buy into the email and keep going. But most of it's really just me having a social conversation with an unknown friend, and that actually seems to work really well. I will regularly get emails from people who are like, "Thanks for catching me up. I had so much fun on your trip. I told my friends about your company coming up in 2027," or something like that. So it kind of helps also keep that word of mouth rolling. Reminds people that we still exist, even if they're not coming back.
And where
I
are you
think it,
getting those contacts from for your 30,000? Are they coming from previous previous guests, or do you have some way that you're gathering those emails before they ever book with you?
Yeah, a lot of them are previous guests. Some are coming through a contact form on our website. Some are coming through, we'll pull them from Resmark and pull everybody out of there. We work with a lot of third party like tour companies like Top Tours or companies like that where they bring groups to us and we don't necessarily get contact information from their guests until they fill out a participation agreement on our website through Resmark. And then we have their contact info and so they'll end up on the list as well. But we try not to be I try not to be super annoying and just spamming people constantly. They're usually like every 2 or 3 months I send out a fun update about what's happening with the company, but almost exclusively through the website and through Resmart.
What, platform are you using to send the email blasts?
I've been living in Squarespace for quite a long time, so that's my safe space. I know how to use it
Yeah,
well, so they all currently live in
Squarespace.
Squarespace. Yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
There are no perfect email systems. That's a fact
Nope,
right now.
nope, nope. No, but, an email list of 30,000 people is one that a lot of companies would dream of. So, and where I tell people to really just start is just start building that email list by having inquiry forms. That was actually another question I was going to ask. What has worked best to bring people back to book? So, are you utilizing emails to bring people back? I know you're using them for your referrals and whatnot, but to get those returning customers back, or do you notice that you don't have as many returning customers because it is a long, it's an expensive trip to go on, and it doesn't happen as often?
Yeah, you're exactly right. Coming up to Alaska is not necessarily an easy trip, although it is easier than most people think, but it's still not a super easy trip. And it is expensive. There's a high demand for Alaska, especially South Central, Southeast. And so it's not cheap to come on these trips at all. But it, so we don't see a lot of return guests, but the ones we see have almost all taken a trip with us before or know somebody who's taken a trip with us before. And so they hear about us through word of mouth. For the most part, it's really hard to retain guests. I don't spend a lot of time trying to, convince people to come back to Alaska. I feel like Alaska does that all by itself. And so I just try to stay on their radar that we are a great option when you do come back to Alaska. And don't forget how much fun you had or how much fun you heard somebody else had when you get here.
Do you have a referral process in place for guests to bring their friends? Or
Nothing formal, no. I probably should, but I don't. I don't.
is that your number one lead source, referrals? What would you say?
uh, it, we probably about 50%, 50-ish% of our guests actually come through group tours, and companies that we've been working through for years. The independent travelers, I would say it's so hard to track this information because you have to really start, you know, driving people crazy with questionnaires and too many questions in their reservation or in the follow-up, and that can get annoying. But um, probably about 20% of our clientele is friends and family, word of mouth, or returning referrals. Um, so the rest are 50% luck, 50% they heard about us somewhere.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's all.
so that's based on what you're saying is probably about 30% of people that are coming to your website just finding you for the first time, however they're finding you.
Yeah.
What do you
Yep.
think for those type of people, what do you think it is that's pushing them over the edge to book with you?
Hopefully it's that personal touch that we have on everything. But that's also another tough one to track because, like I said, we have a lot of really good quality tour companies in Seward. The bar's really high here, which is great for the guests, right? You're probably not going to find a really bad operator in Seward on any tours, not just kayaking, because the expectations are so high in this community on what the products look like and what kind of services we're putting out. Um, and now I forgot your question.
No, you answered it just great.
Okay, good.
No worries.
Okay, so my question for you, Stephanie, what has been the biggest difference in improving your bookings over time? So from coming in as the owner, or maybe even the owner, if you remember, and then what has been some major improvements that you have made for the company that's improving the bookings?
Boy, that's a hard one. Um, I think that, to be honest, one of the bigger drivers for bookings is developing the relationships with some of those group tour companies. We work with quite a few of them. And the nice thing about the group tour companies is the consistency that they bring. They'll set their dates, 12 to 18 months in advance. and they will have a capacity for their tours that we can more or less count on. The independent travelers are a little tougher to count on and often come a little bit later or a little more last minute. Um, so developing those relationships, we have more now than we did pre my ownership, and so we have a consistent base there. And then the other thing for the independent travelers is really just staying on top of your social media outreach. A lot of seasonal tourism companies go dormant in the wintertime or in their off season, and you can't. That's when people are booking. That's when people are thinking about their trip or starting to make their tentative plans and getting their ideas. And if you're even if you're a May through September company, if you're not actively marketing in October, November, December, throughout that season, you're going to miss a lot of potential guests. And so staying on that marketing.
Yeah, that's important to always be in front of people. We've talked about that a lot in
Mhm.
previous episodes and in webinars that we've had. And if you're not doing that, you're just gonna fall behind because
Yep.
everyone else will be doing it for sure.
Yep.
So Nick, you asked kind of, something that you did that was a bigger win. On the more negative side, I guess, have you tried anything that's just failed to convert prospects into bookings that you learned from that then made you do something better going forward?
Yeah. I honestly, life and the world has done that for me more than I've done it for myself. And I bought the company a few months before COVID. So my first operating year was 2020, which was super interesting and taught me a lot of lessons. Um, but as far as some of the marketing that I've done for myself or some of the ideas, I've stuck pretty close to the plan. It was, the company was created by John Page and he developed it over time. And I had was lucky enough to spend oh boy, about 10 years, almost 15 years with him working in the company. And so I learned a lot. I had the advantage of having that process. And so, that allowed me to make some mistakes with his guidance and not make them too big of a mistake before, implementing them on my own. Um, but I think, some of the things I see other people doing or things that I avoid is like, I will never talk down about another company in my community. And I see people doing that. And for one, it's just too small of a town. And two, it does not do anything good for your reputation to speak poorly about another organization. And so I avoid a lot of that, especially with small town politics being what they are. But I've been lucky and not had to. I'm not great at everything. I don't want to imply that at all, but I haven't had anything like really significant happen where I've been full of regret and falling asleep at night.
That's great. Yeah, sometimes, you're not having big failures. Other times you do something and like, whoops, I did that early in my career. I
Yeah,
made a huge mistake and it
I
caused
mean,
some issues
I've got,
and you live and learn and move forward.
yeah, I've got time. I'm sure I've got one or two in my future. I think it's just part of the process, right?
Exactly. The last question I have for you, before we wrap up is if you kind of started over as 2019 again, you just bought the company, is there anything that you would do differently from then to now that maybe would have put you in a different or what you would think would be a better spot or whatever there?
Yeah, yeah. I think that my big weakness when I first came into the company, and something I'm still learning, is the financial side of it. I didn't spend a lot of time with my hands on the book, so to speak. And I have a very specific memory of the previous owner cautioning me about overspending or getting excited about something and not thinking through the expense of that, whatever I'd invented in my brain. Uh, and that has I gave me a couple of stressful years where with the seasonal business, you end the season and you're like, I'm doing great. And then, March, April, May rolls around and you have to start up with the money you have left over from September. And that's a long stretch and you're still spending and not generating a lot of revenue in that period, or not generating a lot of revenue that you should spend because you haven't technically earned it, even if you have it, because the trips haven't happened yet. But I the learning curve of having to struggle through COVID, my first year in operations, like put a really hard lesson in front of me immediately on the financial side. And so I think that's prevented some really big mistakes, but I would have taken more accounting classes before I bought the business had I known how much time I was going to spend in front of QuickBooks.
Absolutely.
That's good, honest advice. And I have one more question for you, Stephanie. It's the question I love to ask everybody at the end. If you were to give another tour operator starting out or looking to grow one piece of advice outside of, taking some accounting classes, because that was a great piece of advice. If you were to give somebody one piece of advice to help grow their bookings, let's say, what would you say to them?
I think the first thing is just believing in yourself. It's very easy to feel like when the weight of the entire company is on your shoulders, it's very easy to feel like you're constantly about to make a mistake. But you kind of just have to face that and own it, that it exists, and move through it. And you're gonna make mistakes, and that's fine, like, that's not the end of the world. You're going to survive most likely, and if you didn't, you might have to start over, and that's also possible, right? But to just have a little bit of faith in yourself that you are the person for this job, and that's, we're all secretly neurotic and and convinced that we're doing everything wrong, and just owning it is it's fine. You'll be fine. And ask for help.
I love
Ask for help. There's people all around you who want to help you. Ask for help.
Love that, Stephanie. I can't thank you enough for coming on the podcast and telling us about the successes of Sunny Cove. For anybody listening, if you want to check out Sunny Cove, the website is just sunnycove.com. And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Tour Operator Growth Podcast. If you like this episode, please subscribe, like. Thank you again, Stephanie, so much for jumping on this podcast. We
Thank you.
appreciate you, as does our audience.